A lot of them. We don't need Canada for that. We don't need Canada for lumber because we have big forests that we have, not utilized. In some cases, they're protected, which I can take that protection off. And you take down a tree and you grow a better tree. That's, pretty common. But we don't need anything. We don't need their fuel. We don't need their energy. We don't need their oil and gas. We don't need anything that they have. And I said to Trudeau, I said, why are we subsidizing you $200 and $250 billion a year? He said, I really don't know. And I said, well, I don't know either. I said, what would happen to Canada if we didn't? He said Canada would be obliterated if that happened. I said, then Canada should be a 51st state.
Trade tensions between the U.S. and Canada have reached a boiling point, with both sides imposing tariffs and taking aggressive stances. At the heart of the dispute is Canadian oil, an essential resource for the U.S. energy sector, despite former President Donald Trump's past rhetoric suggesting that America no longer needs foreign energy supplies.
Well, it was a political decision made by a judge. I think it's a disgrace. It's 48,000 jobs. I approved it. It's ready to start. And they went, and I guess they'll end up going to the Ninth Circuit as usual.
Now, with the U.S. facing energy shortages and rising fuel costs, Trump has shifted his stance, calling for the revival of the Keystone XL pipeline to increase access to Canadian oil. However, this comes just as his administration has imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican imports, effective March 3, 2025. In response, Canada has announced a two-phase counter-tariff strategy and is exploring additional economic measures, escalating the trade war further.
I say you can always become a state, and if you're a state, we won't have a deficit, we won't have to tariff you, et cetera, but Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years, and it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
Adding fuel to the fire, Trump has made provocative claims that Canada should become the 51st U.S. state, a statement that has been met with strong backlash from Canadian leaders. With trade, energy security, and national sovereignty on the line, the question remains who is bluffing, Canada or Trump.
Is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No, nothing. Not right now, no.
Not a negotiating tool?
No, it's not. No, it's a pure economic. We have big deficits with, as you know.
Throughout his presidency and beyond, Trump has flip-flopped on his stance toward Canadian energy. He initially downplayed Canada's role in U.S. energy security, emphasizing a push for American energy independence. But with oil prices rising in U.S. production unable to meet demand, he now argues that Canada is a vital supplier of crude oil, a complete reversal from his earlier rhetoric.
The pipeline was first proposed in 2008 by TC Energy. It would bring 830,000 barrels of oil a day from Alberta's tar sands to U.S. refineries in Nebraska. But the permit was revoked by the Biden administration. Opposition to the pipeline came swift from Native American land defenders and environmentalists. Trump previously approved the pipeline's permit in 2017, but faced ongoing legal challenges that stopped construction. The Great Sioux Nation in the U.S. has previously said it would fight completing the pipeline and called the project dangerous and short-sighted, and that it only serves the interests of billionaires. TC Energy has also since changed its name to South Bow Energy.
Trump is now advocating for the resurrection of the Keystone XL pipeline, which was canceled in 2021. The pipeline would have transported 830,000 barrels of crude oil per day from Alberta to U.S. refineries. However, logistical, environmental, and political challenges make its revival far from certain.
The sources have said that India is highly dependent on imports for meeting its energy requirements. Nearly 85% of our crude oil requirement, which is 5 million barrels a day, has to be imported. Russia has a marginal supplier of crude oil to India, which is less than 1% of our requirement and is not among the top 10 sources. There is no G2G arrangement of import.
Despite Trump's calls for self-sufficiency, the U.S. still imports over 50% of its crude oil from Canada. Canadian heavy crude is essential for U.S. Gulf Coast refineries, which are designed to process this type of oil efficiently. Beyond oil, Canada supplies the U.S. with natural gas and electricity, particularly to northeastern states. Disrupting this flow would have serious consequences for energy stability.
Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
Trump's mixed messaging on Canadian energy highlights a fundamental contradiction. While he insists on reducing foreign dependence, his policies suggest that the U.S. cannot afford to cut ties with Canadian resources.
The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept.
On March 3, 2025, the U.S. will impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian and Mexican imports, a move that could trigger significant economic disruptions. While Trump claims the tariffs will protect American jobs and reduce dependence on foreign goods, they also pose serious risks to key industries and consumers by driving up costs. The automotive industry will be among the hardest hit, as many U.S. car manufacturers rely on Canadian-made parts. These tariffs will raise production costs, forcing automakers to either absorb the losses or pass them on to consumers, ultimately increasing vehicle prices.
So I need people who are willing to work in shifts at different times of the day.
But it's hard to find those people.
Yeah.
American farms are on the decline. There was a 7% drop in farms from 2017 to 2022, according to the USDA. That's about 142,000 fewer farms in just 5 years. These days, farmers are up against bird flu outbreaks, higher costs for feed and fertilizer, and climate change. But their livelihoods depend on a reliable workforce. And now they're concerned about how President Trump's campaign promise to launch the largest deportation effort in American history will play out. About 2/3 of crop workers are foreign-born.
Agriculture is also at risk, with American farmers depending on Canadian fertilizers and trade partnerships. The tariffs could lead to higher input costs and reduced market access, making U.S. agricultural products less competitive globally. Additionally, consumer goods, from household appliances to grocery items, will become more expensive. Many everyday products imported from Canada will see price hikes, disproportionately affecting middle-class Americans who are already struggling with inflation. These tariffs are expected to cost businesses and consumers billions of dollars, creating inflationary pressures and deepening economic uncertainty for both the U.S. and its trade partners.
Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time, to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Together, we've built the most successful economic, military, and security partnership the world has ever seen. A relationship that has been the envy of the world. Yes, we've had our differences in the past, but we've always found a way to get past them. If President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us.
In response to Trump's tariffs, Canada has announced a two-phase counter-tariff strategy set to take effect immediately and escalate on March 25, 2025. These countermeasures include tariffs on U.S. goods. Canada will impose levies on U.S. agricultural exports, consumer goods, and automotive parts, making American products more expensive in the Canadian market. Then there's the non-tariff barriers. Canada is also considering restricting U.S. companies from government contracts, particularly in infrastructure and defense projects.
Canada provides many of the necessary inputs that the American economy is going to need in order to grow and boom economically. whether it's energy, whether it's critical minerals, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's uranium. These are things that Canada provides from nearby, affordably, securely, reliably, particularly when alternatives are more of the same things from China or Russia or Venezuela or elsewhere around the world. We are confident that the facts bear out that this is a win-win relationship.
Export controls on key resources, Canadian officials are reviewing policies that could limit U.S. access to crude oil, natural gas, and critical minerals like lithium and rare earth elements essential for U.S. technology and defense industries. If these measures move forward, the impact on the U.S. economy could be severe, particularly in energy and manufacturing.
A lot of them. We don't need Canada for that. We don't need Canada for lumber because we have big forests that we have, you know, not utilized. In some cases, they're protected, which I can take that protection off. And you take down a tree and you grow a better tree. That's, you know, pretty common. But we don't need anything. We don't need their fuel. We don't need their energy. We don't need their oil and gas. We don't need anything that they have. And I said to Trudeau, I said, why are we subsidizing you $200 and $250 billion a year? He said, I really don't know. And I said, well, I don't know either. I said, what would happen to Canada if we didn't? He said, Canada would be obliterated if that happened. I said, then Canada should be a 51st state.
Beyond trade disputes, Trump has made increasingly provocative statements suggesting that Canada should consider becoming the 51st U.S. state as an alternative to facing economic hardship. He framed this as a choice: accept integration into the U.S. system or suffer under harsh economic measures. Canadian leaders, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, have firmly rejected this idea, calling it insulting and unrealistic.
I've said unequivocally from the beginning, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada will ever be the 51st state.
The Canadian public has also reacted with outrage, with social media campaigns and political leaders reinforcing Canada's sovereignty and independence. While Trump's statements may be intended as political theater, they underscore the growing rift between the two nations.
Danielle Smith jumped in right away to support U.S. President Trump's call to resurrect the defunct project, but the question is, who would be willing to build it? Taking to social media, President Trump called on Calgary-based TC Energy, well, not by name, or another company to return to the U.S. to finish the pipeline that would bring Alberta oil to U.S. refineries. The project's permit had been revoked under the Biden administration after the project received fierce opposition by environmentalists. Trump said under his watch, Keystone XL would acquire easy regulatory approvals and an almost immediate start. Danielle Smith took to X to say this project should have never been shelved. Lower costs for American families is a big win. Let's also scrap these inflationary tariff ideas and focus on getting shovels in the ground right away. Alberta's energy minister says reviving Keystone XL would be an incredible opportunity for Albertans.
I like pipelines, and pipelines in every direction are good things, and I'm glad to see the Americans see how important Alberta and our economy, especially the energy industry, is to the United States.
TC Energy's oil pipeline spinoff, South Bow Energy, doesn't appear to be jumping at this opportunity. In a statement, the company says, we've moved on from the Keystone XL project. We continue to engage with customers to develop options to increase Canadian oil supplies to meet growing demand. Now, Tara, the energy minister was also asked about Trump's push to drill in America and become energy independent. Jean says the U.S. would not succeed in selling energy to the world without Canada.
Despite trade tensions, the U.S. remains heavily dependent on Canadian energy. Trump has renewed interest in the Keystone XL pipeline, a project previously canceled due to legal and environmental concerns. Supporters argue it would create jobs and stabilize fuel prices, while opponents highlight its climate risks and potential harm to indigenous lands. U.S. refineries rely on Canadian heavy crude, making energy security a key factor in the dispute. However, with strong opposition and logistical hurdles, the pipeline's revival remains uncertain, reflecting the deep economic and political ties between the two nations.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon.
As tensions rise, both the U.S. and Canada face serious economic risks. While Trump's tariffs aim to boost American jobs, they could backfire, raising prices, hurting industries, and straining relations with a key ally. Canada's retaliatory tariffs and resource restrictions could disrupt supply chains in energy, agriculture, and manufacturing, making it more expensive for U.S. businesses to operate. Inflation and economic instability could worsen as a result. A possible solution is negotiation and compromise to ease tariffs and prevent further damage. However, if tensions escalate into a full-scale trade war, industries from automakers to farmers could suffer. Meanwhile, Canada may strengthen trade ties with Europe and Asia, reducing its reliance on the U.S. market.
The Academy Awards.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Have a seat, please. What a pleasure it is to welcome President Trump to Charlevoix, an opportunity for us to talk about a broad range of issues. Obviously, trade has been a topic of discussion and will continue to be, but our engagement towards the world, how we're working together to create good jobs for folks on both sides of the border and around. We both got elected on a commitment to grow the middle class and help those working hard to join it, and that's exactly the kinds of things that we're going to stay focused on. And it's a pleasure to have you here, Donald.
Well, Justin, it's been really great, and I appreciate, Justin has agreed to cut all tariffs and all trade barriers between Canada and the United States. So I'm very happy
so
about
I'd say
that.
NAFTA's in good shape.
But we are actually working on it. We are actually working on it. But our relationship is very good. We are actually working on cutting tariffs and making it all very fair for both countries. And we've made a lot of progress today. We'll see how it all works out, but we've made a lot of progress. It could be that NAFTA will be a different form. It could be with Canada, with Mexico, one-on-one, much simpler agreement, much easier to do, I think better for both countries. But we're talking about that among other things. But the relationship is probably better, as good or better than it's ever been. And I think we'll get to something very beneficial to Canada and to the United States.
Excellent.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci.
We didn't discuss it. We didn't cover it.
We'll see you guys. We'll see you
I think
guys
we'll have
tomorrow.
a joint session.
Trump's contradictory stance on Canadian oil, dismissing it one moment, then advocating for increased imports the next, suggests a lack of clear strategy in U.S. Canada trade relations. Canada, on the other hand, is taking a firm stance, implementing tariffs and exploring alternative trade policies to reduce its economic dependence on the U.S. So who is bluffing? Trump may be underestimating Canada's willingness to retaliate. Canada risks economic consequences if it restricts resource exports to the U.S. Both countries could face economic damage if the trade war continues unchecked. Is Trump making a bold move to protect American industries, or is this trade war a disaster waiting to happen? Should Canada hold its ground, or will economic pressure force it to back down? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on global trade, politics, and economic shifts. Stay informed, stay engaged.